Hello and welcome to the memory card. Now there's been a lot of talk about ports lately on the Nintendo Switch, and for some people it's been rubbing the wrong way just for how many that have been coming out this year, but for me personally, I really have been enjoying them because, well, more than really any system ever made, there's a huge selling point to ports coming to the Switch because I can play the same game on my TV over here or on the go wherever I want to be. And that's really cool. I don't have to buy the portable version and the home version if I want to be able to play the same game. It's just with me anywhere, one game. And that's really awesome. There's been some cool ports that have already come out this year, like Pokken Tournament DX and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and I've been enjoying Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 on the Switch. And we've got some other really cool ones coming out later this year, like Doom and Rhyme, and next year, like Wolfenstein 2, which I'm really excited for as well. But we're not talking about those today. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite platformers of the past 10 years, and I played it on the Wii U, Rayman Legends. Now, this was originally supposed to be an exclusive for the system, but it got ported to basically everything, including even the Vita and the PC. But we're going to be talking about the Switch version, Rayman Legends Definitive Edition. How definitive is it? Well, let's find out. This game originally came out in 2013 and was developed as a Wii U exclusive, and because that included a lot of features with the gamepad utilizing it better than most games had up to that point. But, as tended to happen for Nintendo for years and years, games that were made by third parties and meant to be exclusives were eventually brought to other systems. It just happened a lot more quickly with Rayman Legends than a lot of other games. Now, even though this did come out on pretty much every system like the PS3 and the Xbox 360 and PC and even Vita, I do think that the Wii U version is the one to play. And that goes back to what I said earlier. This was originally developed for the Wii U. There's a lot of sections where you control this little guy named Murphy, and you do that with the touchscreen on the Wii U gamepad, and that was something that was really cool in the original release. But now we've got a new version on the Switch. And it's interesting because in some ways it's a bit of a fusion of the Wii U versions and other console versions. You still get the touchscreen from the Switch's screen, but you can only do that in handheld mode because you can't really access that screen when it's docked. So, for those Murphy-centric levels, you can only really do that in handheld mode, which sucks because that's restrictive, but at least you still get to do it. Otherwise, in a lot of those levels, you control Murphy's movements like cutting a rope so he can get over to a certain spot in the level by just pressing a button, which, sure, it makes things quicker, but you don't have that same level of control that you did in the Wii U version. Rayman Legends starting off as a Wii U exclusive and then getting put on every system imaginable reminds me a lot of what happened with Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. It was originally part of the Capcom 5, even though only 4 were released. It was supposed to be an exclusive to the GameCube, but it was eventually ported to the PS2 and then Wii and PC and PS3 and basically every system ever alongside the GameCube, which rubs some Nintendo fans the wrong way because that was supposed to be one of the big killer exclusives for the system, and history kind of repeated itself with Rayman Legends, although it was much more quick. Partially because it was before the game was even released, it was announced that this game would be coming to all other systems as well. But, in another way that history repeated itself, is that Rayman Legends is a fantastic game. Like I said, it's one of my favorite platformers of the past 10 years. The level design and just the thought put into just about every aspect of this game is on another level in comparison to a lot of other platformers. It's truly astounding. Now, Rayman Legends, the Wii U version and Switch versions that I have, are available on pretty much every other platform other than the Definitive Edition and the little additions it adds. But personally, games like the 2D Rayman games and stuff like Shantae, I think fit best on Nintendo platforms, partially because colorful platformers are pretty standard on these systems, so they're among great company there, but there's not really very many games like this on typical Sony or Microsoft platforms. 2D platformers are very rare typically for them, but because of that, you could argue that it's better to get them there because, well, it might just be the system you own, and also it's more unique there. But personally, I would argue that I prefer to have it on a system where it makes sense with the ecosystem of the other games in the library for that system. The main addition to the Switch version, well, the definitive edition of Rayman Legends, alongside being able to take this game portably, is Kung Foot, which is essentially soccer. And this is only really local multiplayer and online multiplayer. You can't really do this by yourself, despite the fact that I tried. And I haven't really had the chance to play it, honestly, because, well, not a whole lot of my friends have Switches yet. And I didn't want to bother trying to get any people online for this. I just played a little bit in the practice just to see the mechanics of how trying to do soccer with the Rayman controls would be, and it's okay. It's just kind of feels like a throwaway addition. Honestly, it shouldn't really factor into whether or not you're going to buy this for the Switch or not. One of the things that immediately won me over about Rayman Legends and the original game, Rayman Origins, is the fantastic art style and the great music in these games. Rayman Origins was the first game in the series to catch my attention, and I saw it on PC first, and oh, that art style looks so good. But I eventually got it on PC and then also on Wii, so that way I could play all my Rayman games on the Wii U and have local multiplayer easier. That's another great feature of Rayman Legends and Origins as well, the 4-player multiplayer. It is so much fun, and in a lot of other games, especially 2D platformers, 4-player co-op can be a bit annoying because there might be friendly fire, and if there's a live system, you just impede each other's progress and can just get pretty frustrating. But luckily in Rayman Legends and Origins as well, there isn't a live system. You just die and then very quickly are brought back to a checkpoint. It minimizes frustration and makes you just want to keep going because there isn't this long time to go to a loading screen like in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. They give you a lot of time to mull over the idea of just switching to a different game. With Rayman Legends, you just are back in the action and want to keep going. Also just because, again, that art style, you just want to see what else is going to be going on in that level because there's so many great details in the background alongside really great lighting and really good striking color work with some really good contrast. And also just what weird things the enemies might be doing in the levels. For instance, in Rayman Legends, it's a fairly open 2D platformer. You have access to a lot of these different worlds, and you can do them in pretty much whatever order you want. It's just a matter of uh, unlocking them. It's kind of like trying to get the stars in Mario 64. And in that same way, it's very open like that, except in a 2D plane instead of 3D. But one of my favorite worlds is Toad's Story, and that partially just because the Toad enemies are really funny. They'll just appear out of nowhere, falling and just screaming and just being really stupid. It's similar to a lot of the humor style that's attempted by the Rabbids, which usually falls flat for me, except for notable exceptions like Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle, which is a phenomenal game. I hope you watched my review of that. Something that's really nice about the music in Rayman Legends is that it has a lot more variety in it than the music in Rayman Origins, which had a very Australian vibe to me for some reason, and that wasn't really carried over. Except there are certain instances in Rayman Legends where you can play the Origins levels, And you unlock them by beating levels, and you get these lottery scratch-off tickets where on the Wii version you would just use the touchscreen, and I imagine you can do that handheld mode as well. I just haven't really played this too much in handheld mode yet. But normally, when it's docked, you just use the analog sticks to scratch it off, and you can unlock more looms, which is kind of like the coins in this if you're more used to Mario. Or you can unlock Back to Origins levels, which are, as you'd expect, levels from Rayman Origins, but playable in Legends, which is nice because it's like you get a lot of that game portably in the Switch version. Now, Rayman Legends already won me over with most of the main game, well, pretty much all of it. It's just fantastically designed and so much fun to play, and the controls are great. Normally I wouldn't like using an analog stick in a 2D game, but it works really well in Rayman Legends and Origins as well. But what tipped this game over the edge for me, from just a fantastic game to one of the best in the genre, are the musical levels in this game. There's one for each world, which is in a painting, and it's themed based off of that world. Like in one of them, it's more rock themed and you're fighting a dragon. And then my favorite one is a mariachi themed one in the sort of Dia de los Muertos themed world. That's just fantastic. I don't want to go into too much detail about these because a lot of what's great about these are the first time you play them and the sheer surprise of what song it's going to be, the style it's going to be. And part of what makes these levels so fun is that the level and all of its design and different things that the enemies will do are all timed to the music. It's all synced perfectly, and it's really a fantastic thing to behold in the game. It's one of the main reasons I love this game as much as I do, and part of why I've decided to buy the game twice. I also hope that I got the Wii version really cheap since it's used and came out 4 years ago. It is really easy for me to recommend Rayman Legends for the Nintendo Switch. Although I do love being able to take this on the go, that's one of the best selling points of getting any game on the Switch. And it definitely looks great on the screen on the Switch, way better than it ever looked on the Wii U gamepad. But the Switch version strays a bit too close to the other ports like the PS3 and PC versions. And that mainly comes with the controlling of Murphy and those Murphy-centric levels. Because in the Wii U version, it was really nice being able to just control them easily with the Wii U gamepad. And unfortunately, that's locked to handheld mode only in this version. Otherwise, you're just doing the regular button presses, which can be quicker but much less precise. There was definitely plenty of times in those Murphy-centric levels where I got really frustrated because I couldn't do the exact thing I wanted to do, like I could with the Wii U version. So, whichever one I'm going to recommend depends on the situation. For one thing, the Wii U version is dirt cheap because, well, I'm one of the only people that cares about the Wii U, unfortunately. So it's not hard to find this game used and very cheap, like I did last year. But the Switch version is amazing because it's on the Switch and you can play it anywhere, and you can play the great Switch Pro controller. But those stuff with the Murphy controls annoys me, and the addition of Kung Foot is kind of pointless, honestly. I don't really see very many people putting a lot of time into this. But ignoring that, Rayman Legends is a fantastic game, and honestly, in my mind, one of the best 2D platformers you'll ever play. So regardless of what platform you get it on, just buy it and play it if you like platformers at all. It is amazing and accessible, and there's so much to do because there's all these daily challenges, and there's all the Back to Origins levels, and then there's all the regular levels in the game. There's just so much to do and so many great levels to play through. It's really hard to get bored with this game. So, regardless, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time on the memory card.